All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a very special episode here. We have an update. We're going to be looking at a Q&A. We've done one of these in the past with Mark Radulich, the patriarch of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. He recently had a doctor's appointment, and to kind of go into the details, we've got the man himself here. So, Mark Radulich, I mean, first off, we were all talking about the biopsy there last week, and you'd mentioned that a couple times, either on my show or your show. I can't remember. But so we had the biopsy that was done, and you were waiting for the results. So today you went to the doctor to find out the results. So, I mean, lay it on us, man. I already know what's going on, but our listeners out there may not have any idea. So please let us know here.
Everything's gonna be all right. Yeah, everything. No.
Get some clutch going. I'm all right with that.
No. Here's the deal. So, I would say September of last year, one of my CAT scans came back, and I had like 3 nodules on my lungs. And my labs were all good. My numbers were all good. I felt good, but my CAT scan came back with these nodules, and so they sent me to the doctor to deal with that, and he said, well, they could be anything. I mean, basically, if you CAT scanned 100 people, 99 of them would have something, on their lungs or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean it's cancer. And all the research I've done on this, all my little Googling that I've done, says that, the stuff gets on your lungs all the time. It could be infection, it could be scar tissue, it could be any number of things. But at the time, I was like, let's go ahead and get them biopsied anyway. One was like really low in my lungs, and it was extremely hard to get to. And they're like, and it might, and getting to it, they might collapse a lung. So they were like, we don't want to do that one. Let's do the 1 or 2 that are easier to get to. Okay. One of them, so by the time we got to the actual biopsy, one had been completely resolved and gone away, and the other one had like shrunk down. So they're like, all right, we're not going to do this today. Had another CAT scan in December, and there was still stuff on my lungs, but nothing that really worried anybody, nothing that was suspicious. So at that point, I still had WrestleMania ahead of me. I had I had the cruise that we've been putting off since before Jonas was born ahead of me, so I was like, I don't want to do anything at this point until I get all this other. Plus, we had the cruise that we were supposed to go on the year before, 2016, that got put off because at the time I had just started chemo. So I was like, we have all this stuff ahead of me between now and April. I think I was supposed to go back in March. I was like, let's put this off till April, and I'll get a CAT scan then. She's like, okay, and if you get your CAT scan then and it comes back clean, we won't see you again for another 6 months. I'm like, terrific. So things were looking up. I was feeling pretty good. As an aside, my daytime sleepiness had gotten to like dangerous points around this time. So I also did a sleep study, and as we've been joking about on several of my shows, I turns out I have severe sleep apnea, so I ended up getting the CPAP machine, and I'm like, okay, things are really turning a corner for me. Things are really looking positive. My daytime sleepiness is going away. I'm not having any problems with cancer. Everything's looking good. I go in middle of April to go get another CAT scan, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to turn out to be really good. This is going to go well. And as it turns out, not only has the one that they didn't want to needle biopsy the first time grown, but now I have a subcutaneous lesion around my backside. That's about 3 centimeters big. You start getting around 3 centimeters, people start thinking cancer. So the nurse practitioner who I was talking to at the time said, well, could be lymphoma, could be follicular lymphoma, could be nothing. We won't know unless we get them biopsied, and we don't want to put this off anymore and just monitor it when this is early enough that if we do something about it, we could have really good results, if that's what it is. And today, I went and got the results of my biopsies from last week, and lo and behold, both of them had diffuse B-cell lymphoma in them. So, yeah, I've got cancer again.
Jeez.
So, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm going to let you talk here. I've got questions about the treatment because you kind of shared that on social media with us. But yeah, you've got both of these. So when you say both of them have the cancer in them, so both of them are considered cancerous and both of them have to be treated, right?
Yeah, okay. So I have what's called a blood cancer, which means that I'm only going to get more if we leave this untreated. If we do nothing, like in other words, we're going to get to the kind of treatment that we're doing. But let's say I wasn't doing CAR T, which I'll explain in a second. I would have to go back to. I would be doing chemo. They would have set me up for chemo.
Okay. So you got it would be similar like where you had the port in, and they. I assume medicate you that way. This is obviously going to be a different beast in itself, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to 2017. I start chemo in April. They have me they have me on the standard chemo for lymphoma, the first line therapy, which is called CHOP, CHOP. I don't remember what it stands for. It doesn't really matter, but it's the first line. It's the first line treatment for diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, which is what I have, and apparently still have. At the time, still have. And I had a couple of rounds of that, and again, I thought I was doing good. I thought I was feeling better. The chemo hadn't been that bad. I had a few rough patches, but for the most part, I was tolerating it well. And I actually felt better. Like I remember going into that, I had actually been hospitalized for the common cold, which is why I missed the first cruise. You know, I remember like the day of WrestleMania in Orlando that year. I was in really bad shape, and like I was like passing out left and right, and I couldn't clear my throat, and I couldn't breathe. I was having a real rough go of it. And so the day that I went in for my first round of chemo, I actually came out of that feeling really good, like the best I had felt since December. Because the chemo did a really, really great job of killing everything in my body. But I still had enough of an immune system to where I didn't feel too bad, and and everything else that was giving me agita had been destroyed. But about 3 or 4 treatments into it, they said this isn't. I got a CAT scan or a PET scan or whatever. I don't remember which one, and they said, "Yeah, this isn't working."
Oh,
it wasn't working well enough. So they said we're gonna up your treatment to what they call RICE. Now the first CHOP was once every 3 weeks or so. I went in for 8 hours of chemo a day, and that was it. Then I went home. Okay. And at the time, I was working every other weekend, and 2 on days, 2 off days at the jail, and so it all worked out well, And I was, like I said, I was doing fine. I went into that PET scan, and I'm like, surely, I'm on my way to being cured. And as it turns out, they said it wasn't working well enough, so they wanted to change it to RICE, which was an entire weekend full of chemo for 8 hours and 6 hours and 6 hours again. And then on Monday, I had to go back to Moffitt and get this cleaner for my system taken off my port. Like I had to go home with this machine, basically this pump. And then I'd have to get my pump removed on Monday. So I did 2 rounds of that, and by that point I was in remission. All right, so now this is August of 2017. I finally go into remission, and about every three to 6 months, I'm either going in for labs and or CAT scans. Fast forward to, like I said, September, and we went over all of that. So I've now had 2 lines of treatment, and neither of which they consider to be effective. So I'm a candidate for what's called CAR T-cell therapy.
Yeah, explain this to me. I read a little bit of the brochure you had posted, and even trying to figure out what they were talking about. It seems like it was pretty general description. You got more details. Tell us the details here, what that's going to have.
Sure. I'm actually on the site explorecartherapy.com, carttherapy.com. So, excuse me, T-cell is a fighter in your immune system, and CAR, C-A-R, is a specific receptor added to your T-cell. And the T-cell with the CAR added helps fight specific targeted cells. So specifically, what happens is they're going to take T-cells out of my body, they're going to attach this CAR receptor, and they're going to reinsert them into my body, and they're going to target, and they're basically like heat-seeking missiles for cancer cells.
Okay.
So basically, what'll end up happening is, in theory, if this all works the way that it's supposed to, even if I get cancer again, my body will automatically fight it.
Oh, okay.
So I'll already have the cells in my body. Like white blood cells, the way they are right now, can't fight cancer. That's why you end up having the problems that you do, and people die from cancer, as I understand it. With the CAR T cell, now I'll actually have white blood cells in my body that fight cancer.
Now, is this something new, or has this been around for a while?
It's only a couple of years old.
Okay. I was going to say, I've never heard of this before, but I didn't know if it was like very specialized. So this
is like way brand new and exciting. It's only a couple of years old. In many cases, it's still in clinical trials. So here, I'm on the frequently asked questions page, and hopefully this will straighten things out a little bit for you.
Now let's do a list.
Okay. Number one. So what does CAR stand for? It stands for chimeric antigen receptor. CAR T-cell therapy adds a new receptor or hook to a patient's T-cells. This receptor is called chimeric antigen receptor, or CAR. CARs are designed to help patients' immune system find and attack specific cells, including cancer cells and normal cells. Some CAR T-cell therapies are FDA approved, but most are still being studied in clinical trials. So it's 2019, and CAR T has been approved by the FDA. It's been approved if you failed 2 lines of therapy, which I have, and it seems to be where the industry is going.
Okay.
There's an 80% success rate with this. However, it's not all peaches and cream. There are side effects, and it's kind of an involved thing.
You turn into the Hulk?
I wish. Okay. So after the CAR T therapy cell infusion, patients will be monitored closely by their doctor for possible side effects. There is a possibility the patient may experience severe side effects that require treatment and a longer hospital stay, or may cause even death. Time at the hospital will vary based on the side effects. So some of the side effects are like delirium. I'm trying to find like the list of them. So the big one that they look for is cytokine release syndrome, which can happen in the first few days to a few weeks after a patient's CAR T cells are put back in their body, which consists of fever, fatigue, nausea, chills, low blood pressure, rapid heartbeat, muscle joint pain, weakness, low oxygen level, and breathing difficulty. Neurotoxicity, which can also happen in the first few days to a few weeks. Confusion, difficulty or inability to speak, loss of coordination, difficulty walking, shaking movement, seizures, difficulty staying awake, headache.
Damn.
So let's get to brass tacks here. Today they said that there's work to be done. There's all kinds of preparations that have to take place before I can get admitted to the hospital. Not to mention the fact that I still have to get approved for FMLA. I got to get my short-term disability going. There's a whole series of things that need to happen here. But in theory, if all goes according to plan, I will be in the hospital getting this procedure done for the month of July. Like the whole month, I'm going to be in the hospital.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Now, how that's going to affect the podcast, that's kind of why we're doing this to a degree. So I'll get to that in just a minute. But yeah, I'm slated at this point to go in at the end of June, beginning of July, which means I'm going to fucking miss Spider-Man. Really? Nothing, huh? All right.
Tough to gauge how I should react here. Well, damn. Well, he does need the treatment. Okay, well.
Can't we do it after Spider-Man? Anyway.
Obviously, these doctors have no idea about the schedule. You need to walk in there with the tome that Ronnie gave you and say, look, and just slap it down on the table.
Yeah, well, no, Moffat don't take no mess. I'll tell you that right now. I tried to do that shit with the cruises 2 years ago, and they were like, okay, but then we're going to list you AMA, and the insurance will cover nothing, and you'll die. Like,
oh, geez.
All right.
Okay. Good argument.
Yeah, sure. I didn't realize
I see it your way.
You guys mean business. So the first month I'm in the hospital. I believe what they're looking for is I think I need to go like 3 days without an incident. No fevers, no delirium, no nothing. And then I can be discharged to home. But I still have to be like within 30 minutes of the clinic, and I have to have somebody with me 24 hours a day to make sure none of the other shit that I read happens. So there's still a possibility even after I go home that I might have like a relapse or a complication or something, at which point I'm going to need to go back to the hospital.
Wow.
So that brings me to the next thing. So through August it's going to be a 2 to 3 month recovery period after I'm discharged from the hospital, from what I've been told. So theoretically, I won't be able to go back to work until somewhere between October and November. Now, I'm hoping, obviously, for sometime in October, but, the initial thing, she was like, yeah, it's 3 months of recovery time before you can go back to work. So that's 3 months of me being at home with my parents watching me while Melissa's at work. And we're not entirely sure if my kids can be around or not. Like, that's one of the questions we have to ask. I thought they would be, but Melissa's a little unclear. So right now we're not really sure what the game plan's going to be, other than my parents are taking care of me while I'm at home and are going to be helping out with our finances until I'm back on my feet.
Yeah.
But at the end of all things, by the end of this year, I should be back on my feet. I should be back to work again. And I should not have another remission of cancer. I should not have another reoccurrence of cancer, I should say. Like, I got to sacrifice 4 months for a lifetime of being cancer-free. That's the exchange.
Yeah.
So,
and
while this is all kind of depressing, I feel like, if I happen to live to the ripe old age of 80, is a small price to pay. 4 months is a blip on the radar. That's
right. That's right.
It's a wrinkle in time.
That's right. Yeah, I can't even imagine, man. I know it's a lot of the amount of stress that you are going through right now and the family's going through, I'm sure, is just off the charts. And all I thought about today was you and the family, the kids, and having to hear that and be like, oh fuck, now I'm back at step one again.
Yeah.
I
feel like a burden on my wife. Now mind you, we've already talked this out, so she has assured me she loves me, and that is not the case. But no, I feel like a burden on my parents. I feel like a burden on her. And there's a part of me that feels like everyone would be better off if I weren't around. Not dead. Not necessarily dead. Not suicidal. But
I don't understand what the other end of this is. I mean,
not in their life. Like, they'd be better off if I weren't, There's a part of me that feels like the people closest to me would be better off if I weren't in their life because of all of this. And I have been reassured that that's a stupid way to think. but
Yeah.
it's there. It's definitely present. And then I think about, my kids, and my son starting kindergarten, and I'm like, I mean, there's never a good time for any of this shit to happen. I wait 2 months, I'm into Christmas. I wait longer. It's still the middle of the school year. It's like there was never a good time for this to happen. If anything, this was the best time because at least it's during the summer.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not disrupting school. At least part of this isn't going to be disrupted to school. But, he is starting kindergarten, and it makes me feel bad that he's going to start kindergarten with this going on in my life. I'm not necessarily sure what that's going to mean just yet. So that bothers me. This is going to be costly. And while my parents have money, they're not the Rockefellers. So,
yeah.
There's guilt, there's frustration, but I'm trying to hang on to as much positivity and hope as I can because it doesn't do any good to sort of wallow in negativity. It's not going to help any one of those people who I just named. It's not going to help me. So I'm trying to remain positive. I'm trying to figure out how I can keep podcasting through all this.
That, sir, it should be last thing on the list.
It's last not, though, thing. But it's not. Wow, remember when I said we were going to do this in 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think this deserves a lot more time than you think. I honestly, dude, the podcasts are always going to be here. So, trying to do this while going through that, it's just one more thing you have to worry about when you should be focused on your health. Now, before I came down here tonight, I told Mindy, I said, I've got to do a podcast with Mark, and, this is going to be pretty tough after what he shared with me today. And then I said to myself, and I told Mindy, I said, I believe in my heart that he most likely would rather talk to someone and take his mind off of what's going on. And much like you did the last time you went through this, I mean, I can remember you podcasting from your bed. That is quite the story, because I know you did a couple or a few podcasts from your bed, but you fucking stayed through it. And I'm sure that it was probably pleasant to take your mind off of that. But again, podcasting is, family's first, your health is first. Podcasting is the last thing you should worry about. So I know I probably speak for the majority of whoever listens to this network, the majority of the people that talk with you and podcast with you on this network. We want you focusing on your health, number one, and this is all second, buddy. This is all second.
Well, and I hear that, but I feel like I have to have some degree of normalcy.
I understand.
And, as much as I get kind of teased for, scheduling out my life and all these podcasts or whatever, I still feel like I need to keep going, and I need to try to do as much as I can from I try to keep as much normalcy from my life as I can. You know what I mean? And
sure.
Sure. I'm looking to a period of time where I'm not going to be able to leave the house, and I'm not going to have much contact with people, and so podcasting may be about the only thing I've got.
True.
To keep me fucking sane.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of downtime. You probably catch up on a season of Arrow or two. Oh, wait a second, you already did that.
You know what's funny about that is I had a friend of mine who called me up tonight, and he was like, I want to come down and see you, and can you have visitors in the hospital? I'm like, the hospital is not really where I want to see people. Don't come visit me in the hospital. Like the last time I was in the hospital, I just caught up. I caught up on the entire series of Arrow. That's where that joke came from.
Yep.
And I was like, and I was kind of fine with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be tubed up. I fucking may not know where the hell I am at times. I'm going to be miserable. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone.
You're going to be in one of those hospital gowns.
Yeah.
The dreaded hospital gowns.
Just fucking let me be. When I'm out of the hospital and I'm stuck in the house, that's when I'm going to need people to come visit me. You know?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any other questions? Any thoughts about this? But before you do, July. It's hard to say what we're going to be able to do in July. We've got a whole bunch of Metal Hammer of Doom scheduled. We've got every week except for the first week of July. There's a Damn You Hollywood. The first week of July is the Batman versus TMNT stuff. There's a whole bunch of source materials. I mean, the source material thing is easy for you to keep doing because you don't really need me for that. You can just look at the schedule and kind of go from there. But, the rest of it, I don't know how much Robert is going to do on his own and how, there's always people like willing to step up and do stuff. We have a pretty large crew of people now. My hope is that with or without me, people kind of stick to the schedule as best they can and will continue to do these things. We're looking at Doom Patrol in July, Cloak and Dagger, things like that. So, I am taking my computer with me if I can. I may try to do some of this from my hospital bed. So I'm gonna try to
unfucking believable.
I am gonna try to keep to my schedule as much as I can. Then we may have to. Obviously, we're gonna have to cancel some shows. Like I'm not getting to the movies probably anytime soon. In the month of July.
How bad does it hurt you to take shit off the schedule? Because you're just going to have to deal with it, man. You're probably just going to have to say, okay, that's got to go. It's not going to happen. I know that you take pride in having that content ready to go, but this is, again, no one's going to point a finger at you and say, oh my gosh, he let us down because he wasn't able to do this podcast. Like you said, there's a lot of people here on this network that would be willing to step up and do a podcast or two. So if there's something that you absolutely are like, this has got to be done, and even though I can't do it, it must be done, which is pretty much everything on the schedule. I understand that, Mark. But that if it's got to be done, anybody I'm sure will, if they can make the time, they'll do so. But yeah, man, we all got your back, dude. I know you're going to hear that from now until, you're in the hospital, out of the hospital, all that shit. But everybody here has your back, and we want the best for you. I hate hearing this stuff. It breaks my heart, but I know you're a fighter. Hashtag fight, Radulich fight. It's just another chapter, just like you said. 4 months, 80 years. That's we're looking at the long game. So that's what we got to focus on. We just got to focus on getting through this, and then by this time next year, we're talking about the Gambit film that they were kind enough to actually get done. Yeah, you'll be laying in bed and they'll be like, they're doing the Gambit film. I've got to get better.
I hope. All right. I think unless you have any other questions about like the treatment or whatever, I think we've said all we need to say, and we got metal to talk about tonight. So
I'm ready. I'm ready to talk some Metal Hammer of Doom. The medical stuff's all beyond me. So it's the only thing I could say is just keep us updated as best as you can. That's all I would ask.
All right. Well, the next thing on the list is I'm having a bone marrow biopsy a week from Friday. So, hopefully we get some good news there, and it's not in my bones, not in my bone marrow.
Oh my gosh!
It's just these two nodules, or whatever, and hopefully that's it. So, more to come. I don't think I'll do another one of these again for a while. I just needed to update people. My wife put something on Facebook, put two things on Facebook today about it. It was really funny because I didn't expect her to do that, and she's like, "You put up the flyer," and I'm like, yeah, all I did was put up the flyer. I was sharing information. She was like, you were being cryptic.
She called you on your shit too. It was so funny because I read the post. She's like, because Mark wants to be cryptic. And I'm like, what did he do? Oh, it's just a picture. Oh, well. All right.
Look, I am a purveyor of information, okay? All I was doing was sharing this new crazy therapy.
That I happen to be going through. But I left that part out.
That was nobody's business. All right. Thank you, everyone.
And we podcasted about it.
Yeah, you know what? Thanks for if you've listened to this. Thank you for giving me some time. I just, if over the summer you start to see less content and you're like, hey, what happened here? I kind of wanted to get ahead of the game and explain what was going on. Like I said, I'm going to try to do as much as my body will allow me to, as much as the hospital will allow me to. But it may end up being nothing. I may end up being able to do some things. I don't know. That's the big anxiety right now is we don't know when this is going to start. We don't know really how much this is going to entail. We don't know how well my body's going to tolerate it, and we don't know when I'm going to get better. So it's a fun time in the Radulich household.
All right, man. Well, for Mark Radulich, I'm Jesse Starcher. Mark Radulich, you be well, you be safe, and you behave. All right?
Can't promise anything on that third one.